So today we're going to be upgrading Zach's old computer to a new computer because his microfiles had so many problems. It took him a minute and a half to load Windows. I did a Cinebench test. It took almost 2.5 minutes. Something that's supposed to take 20 or 30 seconds. So we're going to be swapping out his old components into a new shell and doing some tweaking to see if we can make this thing run better than the old gray mare. And with that, let's all have some fun.
As you can see, he doesn't have too many bad components. He has a EVGA 600 watt power supply, silver rated. He's got a 1050 Ti from NVIDIA. He was simply being bottlenecked by his DDR3 1800 megahertz RAM and a 4-core no hyperthreading processor that, on average, I believe it was a good minute to a minute and a half to load Windows 10. And because this is a low budget build, we're going to try to scrap as many of his old parts as possible. Even though the motherboard and processor and RAM is no longer usable, one or two of the fans might still be good enough. The hard drives definitely could work, and like I said, a budget build. It's always a good idea at first to remove all the cables that could be in your way. Allows you to have a clearer vision of the board without things obstructing. Here I'm beginning to prep a second motherboard. Using the box as a test bench, I'm currently locking in the processor, placing on the silicon, placing on the RAM. It's easier outside the case to put it on than when you're inside the case in tight and constricted places. But I always say you should wait until the motherboard is completely secure before you put on the coolant fan for your CPU. Here I waited to the last step to install this power supply, and once I knew the motherboard was in and secure and nothing obstructing it, that allows me to pull the cords through the opening and do cable management on the opposite side. Try to make it look as clean as possible. Towards how I set his system, considering his processor was 3000 megahertz and his RAM is at 3000 megahertz, I felt there was no need to overclock. Ultimately, in the end, you want to eliminate any possible bottlenecks, but if everything is going at the same speed, you shouldn't have to change it. So the only bottleneck at the moment for him will be his SSD, because it's connected through SATA 6. I think it's limited to almost 650, versus if he had an NVMe M.2 SSD through PCIe slot, he can go as high as 3.5, 3.6, which at that point would make more sense to overclock your processor and perhaps your RAM. But at this stage of the game, it's a marginal increase to performance. I mean fractions. Instead of using his two 1 terabyte geometry hard drives, which are incredibly slow, we went out and purchased a PNY 128 gig SSD. It's dramatically faster and it boosts performance of Windows and any other application he wants to start quickly. And even though his motherboard is a micro ATX, he has plenty of expandability. AMD is relying on the AM4 socket for the next few years, which means all Ryzen processors can be used on that board if he wants to. It had available 2 M.2 slots, so he can actually go even faster on drive if he wants to. And he did not need quad channel or dual channel memory to play video games. That's why I thought it was pretty sufficient to get 16 gigs of 3000 megahertz RAM.